Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching Tesla Time News.
Episode 226.
On Now You Know.
We're brought to you, as always, by our amazing Patreon patrons. Support creating independent news every week by heading over to patreon.com/nowyouknow, and you'll find some pretty awesome perks over there as well.
And we're sponsored by BigBattery.com, with the best battery prices in the USA guaranteed. If you've got something you need to power, from homes to cars, RVs to boats, and much more, BigBattery.com has you covered, offering the newest battery tech. Use the code NOWYOUKNOW to save you 5% off your purchase today at BigBattery.com.
And this episode of Tesla Time News is sponsored by Skillshare.
Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including design, photography, video editing, freelancing, and more.
I recently took Productivity Today, Managing Attention in the Digital Age, Learn with Todoist by Kevin Siskar. And what I learned is that lots of phones and digital devices have tools to limit your distractions. So he turned me on to focus mode, which is an existing feature on my phone that I didn't know about.
Really? So that like blocks notifications and stuff?
Yeah, it blocks specific app notifications at pre-scheduled times every day so I can get more work done. It's a great time-saving tip that I learned.
And that's what I like about Skillshare. For less than the price of a book on the subject, you can take a class and get access to over 20,000 curated courses, all with no ads.
And it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription.
The first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. And we're sponsored by ecoware.us, where you're going to find free shipping on every item, and we offset the manufacturing, the shipping, and the life cycle of your purchase, and we plant a tree for every order, and we help cap a well for every order, so your purchase is completely carbon negative. So Tesla just released this statement on Saturday. In 2020, we produced and delivered 500,000 vehicles in line with our most recent guidance. In addition, Model Y production in Shanghai has begun, with deliveries expected to begin shortly.
Well, but hang on a second, because they also, in the exact same statement, they released this table, and it says that they only delivered 499,550 vehicles.
Oh my goodness.
That's 450 vehicles below what that's not 500,000 cars.
Hang on.
No, I won't hang. How dare they say that they delivered 500,000 cars? They weren't even close.
They were really close, but if you read the fine print, it said they can be plus or minus 0.5%. They just don't know. It's just too close to the date for them to know. So
okay, so there's a chance that they might be over 500,000. Because if they're not over 500,000, forget it. Ridiculous. It's useless. If you haven't hit exactly 500 million, then there's no point in doing it at all.
Right. Then you
may as well not be a car company because you haven't initiated the specific incantation, which only occurs after you hit 500,000 cars a year. And if you can't tell, I don't care about 450 cars, give or take. That's just what all the news stories have been saying. They missed their deadline. Ha ha! Tesla, you idiot! You fool! How dare you miss it by who knows how many cars, or not. But they missed it. That's the story. That's what everyone should read.
Maybe the story should look more like this. How about if we see a chart of their sales every year? Mm-hmm. This chart from Hypercharts, one of our favorites. So for some context, Tesla delivered 367,000 vehicles last year and 245,000 vehicles the year before. That's what this chart is. Mm-hmm. That is a 61% year-over-year increase from Q4 of last year and a 36% year-over-year increase. And I think that should be the story. What other car company can show you that?
In 2020, car sales have been down the whole year.
Yeah.
And Tesla pulls out a big win. And you might be saying, well, I wish the graph was taller. I wish they had 450 more cars that they delivered. But again, it's 2020.
And this is before Model Y is produced in China. Let's take a look at this story, which plays right into it. So these sales numbers are without the Model Y being produced in China. But now we have this. Model Ys are rolling out into showrooms in China, and people are going bonkers.
Yes. It is going to be a very, very, very popular car in China, I'm pretty sure, if the Model 3 is any indication at all. And Tesla has just slashed the prices for the Model Y in China.
So when we heard the prices announced last June, prices were supposed to be 488,000 won or $68,580 for the long-range Model Y and 535,000 won or $75,185 for the performance Model Y. Now,
the Model Y long range all-wheel drive is 339,900 won, which is roughly 52,000 US dollars.
Okay, stop right there.
Yeah.
That means we went from 68.5 to 51.8.
Yeah.
That's a humongous price drop.
Exactly.
No wonder they're excited.
And the performance has gone to 369,900 won, which is roughly 56,400.
Hang on. That's cheaper than the US-made Model Y Performance.
Yes, the US Performance Model Y is $60,000, where the one made in China is $56,000.
Wow.
So that's a huge difference. Now, the long range is slightly more expensive in China at $52,000 versus $50,000. But again, that's not a huge difference.
Remind me again, what extra do you have to put into the Model Y Performance? Another motor?
Nope. You just you put a little bit of code that says this is a performance. Because the long range and the performance, I don't think there's hardly any difference.
It just goes faster.
It just goes faster because you told it to.
Wow.
Exactly. So these numbers that we're talking about for this year, that was just with Model 3 Chinese production. So just like half a gigafactory, if you really want to think about it that way.
The most amazing part of this story is this clip we're about to show you, where Elon nailed it in 2014. Take a look.
What can we eventually expect when it comes to ramping up with the gigafactory in place, the number of Teslas that you push off the assembly line?
Well, I mean, I feel comfortable that we'll be able to achieve at least 500,000 cars a year by 2020. You know, maybe we can do a bit sooner than that, but I think that's what I feel comfortable predicting.
So that was from 2014. That was
6 years ago. He foresaw the future down to the car.
Well, he was off by about 450 cars. It's important to remember that. How dare us ever think that he actually sold 500,000? I mean, has any CEO, car CEO, been able to guess 6 years in the future when you are ramping up production, the number that you're going to hit for that year?
When you also hit a pandemic that year?
Right. I mean, that's almost scary.
And to top it off, last week, Tesla's stock price hit an all-time high of $705 per share, or $668 billion market cap. S3 Partners track short-selling interests, and they said, with shares up 730%, Tesla bears have seen more than $38 billion in mark-to-market losses this year, according to data from S3 Partners. By comparison, the next biggest loss for short sellers was on Apple Incorporated at just under $7 billion, S3 data shows.
Ouch. So I don't know who's still shorting Tesla, but a lot of money is still shorting Tesla, and they're getting...
It's close to bankruptcy, folks. They didn't meet their targets.
They're off by 450 cars.
Told ya.
Told ya. Why didn't you listen to us? Yeah, and I just also want to point out that Tesla was valued at less than $100 billion at the beginning of last year.
Yeah.
So the beginning of 2020, they were valued at less than $100 billion. Now they're up over 6 times where they were just a year ago. So
suck it.
Take that, shorts. So a sharp-eyed YouTuber spied what appeared to be to him to be a modified Model S with manufacturer plates.
What's different about it?
It's got a chrome delete.
Oh, okay.
Obviously. It's got different wheels.
Okay.
They say that it's a wide body, and they think that it might be lower to the ground than a normal Model S. So this could be the new refreshed Model S. Maybe this is the first one off the line, and they put the manufacturer plates on it to go test it. Maybe it's the Plaid version of the Model S.
But it doesn't have the wide body kits that we saw at Nürburgring, and it looks an awful lot like a normal Model S, besides the wheels and the chrome.
Well, right. So it doesn't look anything like the blue Model S that we saw at Nürburgring. It doesn't have that big hole in the front, but there was the red Model S that was at Nürburgring. And they...
Doesn't look like that either.
It doesn't look like that either, because if you notice on that rear fender, and actually on the front fender as well, there was like this extra add-on, and it doesn't look like they have the add-on this version, and it also doesn't look like they've widened the body at all. Yeah, it looks an awful lot like a regular Model S with the chrome delete and new wheels.
I mean, maybe if you look down in the dark spot there, the rear diffuser might be a slightly different profile, but excuse me, why are we talking about this?
Because it's new, it's different. It's the Model S. It's getting a refresh. Look how different it looks.
But I don't even think this is it.
No, I don't think it's it either.
They might be I mean, maybe this is it and it's inside and they're just driving it around to test something, but I don't.
Well, yeah,
Has everyone gone nuts?
Right.
It's going to happen. It'll be exciting when it does, but like.
And if this were the Plaid or the refresh Model S, is it going to make that big a splash? I mean, the Model S didn't make a very big proportion of Tesla's sales. No. I don't know. Maybe they just make a huge proportion of their profit, but I don't think so. So with this little change, if there's any change at all, which, someone might comment and say like, oh, I think it's actually an inch wider in the back. Sure, maybe it is. I really have difficulty.
I don't think they're going to go any wider with this car. Let me just.
They might for the Plaid, but like, so maybe it's the Plaid, but like, there's not enough different to me for a car that came out, and I think its last refresh was 2016 when they had the front fascia update. But the body style hasn't changed since 2012 when they actually rolled out the thing. I mean, I think that this is a testament to how good the Model S holds up over time, that people are looking at this and being like, look, it's new, it's different. And even though I really don't think it's different.
No, I mean, 8 years later, and it's still beautiful. Let's talk about what might actually be refreshed in the Model S and X. White Hat Hacker Green the Only tweeted this. Trader Paul said, selfie not in the XS, correct? And Green said, not yet, but there's something called SXP2 with hardware 3.2 that does have the selfie. So what is he talking about?
He's talking about the interior camera that is in the Model 3 and Y right now. So right above the rear view mirror, there's a camera, and we don't know what it does or what it's used for because Tesla hasn't told us what it's used for. It's supposed to be for driver and inside monitoring. We think it's going to be for the robotaxi, but this is all just conjecture at this point.
And so basically Green is saying that the code has shown up for the selfie cam, which means it's probably soon to follow as hardware.
So in the refreshed Model S, it might have that.
Yeah. I think this is more exciting than that, to be honest. It starts with this tweet last Wednesday. Eric X said, accurate super heavy descent profile, and this is just CGI. Mm-hmm. And Elon said, we're going to try to catch the super heavy booster with the launch tower arm, using the grid fins to take the load.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. Stop. This is different.
Yeah, it is.
So what Elon is saying there is you have the Super Heavy.
And that again is what?
That is the thing that launches Starship into space. You can think of it as
the booster rocket.
You can think of it as like the Falcon 9 booster for the Dragon capsule, but amped up really big.
So, I mean, Starship is already tall. We're talking about making it really tall.
Right. We're talking a ginormous booster. And now, instead of having it come back and land, which is already kind of crazy, we're saying, no, it's not gonna land on the ground. We're gonna catch it by the grid fins.
Wait, what?
So the grid fins, for those of you who haven't learned much about SpaceX, actually have some. So one of our fans sent us these lovely gold grid fins with our logo in the middle.
Wow.
The real ones don't have the logo in the middle, but just for a minute, these are the ones that are on the Falcon 9, but the ones that we're talking about for the Super Heavy are going to be way bigger, and these aren't to scale, obviously. So you have your rocket, right? And this sticks out, and as it's falling down through the air, you can tilt it, and there's 4 of them, and that allows you to steer the rocket on its way down through the atmosphere.
How's it going to land on them?
You get a thing, and it's going to stick out and land on all 4 grid fins.
Oh, glad you explained that, because I was like,
I don't get it. That's like landing rockets is hard enough.
Wow.
But now you're essentially saying, hey, we're going to catch the rocket in a circle, like it's going to land.
Oh, well, let's continue with the tweets here.
Right.
So, self-appointed Pope said, too much stress on the landing legs for it to land on the pad by itself. And Elon said,
legs would certainly work, but best part is no part. Best step is no step.
And then Viv said, you're truly playing Kerbal, the real world edition, aren't you? Is this mostly to delete the weight of legs from the design or any other reason? Will precision stability of landing be the same or even better than with the legs?
Elon said, saves mass and cost of legs and enables immediate repositioning of booster on launch mount, ready to refly in under an hour. So let's break that down for a second. So you have the rocket, right? And so every little bit of weight that you strap onto that rocket means that that's less weight that you can shoot up into space and eventually Mars and whatnot.
Oh, right. So the legs were only needed for landing, and he, by reusing the grid fins for two purposes, gets to delete the legs.
Right. You may as well take all of the stuff that you'd need for the legs, like, shock absorbers and stuff like that, put it on the ground and just have it kind of land on something that'll do what all the job of the legs, but leave that on the ground.
Oh, leg! You're looking for a leg!
Then James Stevenson said, yeah, you could build shock absorbers into the launch stand's arms without having to worry about any weight penalty. And Elon said,
Exactly.
so wait, there's going to be shock absorbers built into it too?
Yeah, everything that you would have had to strap onto the rocket and de-efficientifies it, you're going to now have on the base of the launch pad.
So then Viv said, also, what implications does this have for drone ship landings? Or will all Starship drone ships essentially be fully fledged ocean spaceports, including launch mount?
And Elon said, yes.
Wait a minute. So now we're talking ocean spaceports?
Yes. Well, let's just think about it. What is an ocean?
Okay.
It's a big, flat, squishy body of land.
Oh, yeah, without people around.
You can't build buildings on an ocean.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to land interplanetary travel, if you wanted to land at a city, if you want to travel from one city to another, you'd either have to drive really far to get to some unpopulated area.
Right.
You leave a city and there's still the suburbs. People aren't going to take too kindly to like, oh, we're putting in a big, loud rocket. It's going to come in and go, and then it'll land. And everyone's going to go, not in my backyard. So put it out in the ocean. You have the Ocean Star Port, and you just take a fast boat or a helicopter or a drone or a boring tunnel thing out there, and then you're not near anybody, so the noise no longer becomes an issue.
And what was really cool is once he put it out there, all of the Twitterverse started figuring out how to help him.
Yeah.
So Small Stars said, ever since Elon nonchalantly commented on our booster landing that would try to catch the booster with the tower, Eric X Space and I have been debating a few different solutions for a catching mechanism. This one is my favorite so far.
And Elon said, rocket motion is primarily vertical, so you want to keep the top open.
So they had to go back to the drawing board and redo it. And there's been dozens since then.
So Viv mentioned earlier, real life Kerbal. And you might be saying, like, what the heck is Kerbal? It is a game called Kerbal Space Program, where you get to make your own rockets, launch them, control them. You can land on moons, travel to other planets, do all sorts of things. And it's been kind of the introduction for a lot of people in the past 10 years of what is space travel? How do you do it? There's the saying like, oh, this isn't rocket science. Guys should be able to get it. And honestly, once you kind of understand the basics, rocket science isn't that hard. It's just extraordinarily expensive, and it is also very hard. But the basics of it aren't unlearnable to most people. And I think that Kerbal might have something to do with this kind of like plucky, let's try it kind of mentality about space travel. Whereas before it was just like, well, let's leave it to the professionals.
So Made in China Model Ys are getting some updates that have already been happening in the Model 3, like the center console refresh. But now we're getting reports that the Made in China Model Y is also getting an update that has not been seen in the Model 3 so far.
And it is a matching wood accent on the door. And you can see here the picture from the Chinese configurator.
And the question is, could this be coming to the US-made Model Ys soon?
So, I think the biggest question here is like, who cares? Like, does that matter? I'm kind of curious, and you can leave your comments down below. Like, is this accent going to kind of make or break the Model Y for you? Is it just a nice to have? Do you hate it? Do you want to rip it off of your car? What are your thoughts?
What I think is interesting, and no one really seems to talk about, is that Tesla, when they come out with the vehicle, they pretty much make it the same vehicle across the world in a very short amount of time.
But there's different companies like, the Golf, right?
The VW Golf?
The VW Golf, right? They sell it in Europe. They sell it in the United States.
Yeah, but the US version is completely different than the German version. Different styling, different engines. Like, it's recognizable, but they're like, oh, Americans will want this and Europeans will want that.
I see. And you're saying that Tesla basically...
other than the Chinese badge, for the most part, they're trying to actually make the vehicle pretty much the same.
I mean, they are putting LFP batteries in the standard range Model 3 in China.
That's mainly because they have limited battery supplies. I mean, I feel like if they didn't, they'd probably stick the same batteries in all of them. So there's a new manufacturing process for Tesla Semi job listing at Giga, Nevada, which has appeared on Tesla's career website. It says, this production line will help define how semis are manufactured in Tesla. As such, this will require a great deal of hands-on development and troubleshooting and flexibility.
So, now wait a second. Giga, Nevada, I thought that the semi-truck was going to be made at Giga, Texas.
Yeah, you're right. Elon said last summer that Tesla Semi would be manufactured at Giga, Texas in Austin. My guess is that at Giga, Nevada, this would be the kind of test or pilot line to get ready, and then they would transfer that knowledge over to Austin.
Interesting. So, do you think that whoever is going to be working on this test line is going to have to move to Austin at some point?
It's a great question.
I guess the other big question is, are they going to have to move to Nevada? But that's up to the person applying.
So Tesla has announced last week its largest supercharger location.
No. We just reported on this like a couple weeks ago. It was the 56 Supercharger in Firebaugh, California.
No, I remember that. But this is even bigger. This is the new 72-stall supercharger in the Jing'an International Center in the center of Shanghai, China.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you to Jay in China for posting these pictures. Now I want a supercharger review of the largest supercharger.
Now, hang on. This is 120 kilowatts versus the 250 kilowatts in Firebaugh, California. So slower charging rate. So, I mean, I think Firebaugh has it beat in terms of capacity, if you think about it that way.
Right, because more cars will be able to pull in and out. I mean, this is at like a big shopping plaza, so more likely you don't need the speed as much as just the convenience, but still pretty cool to see.
a whole parking garage full of chargers. Like if you had told me this back in like, I don't know, 2014 or something, no one would believe you.
No.
The whole thing? Where would the cars come from?
So Indonesia is the world's largest producer of nickel, with 800,000 tons of nickel produced in 2019.
Thanks for the fun fact. But who cares?
Well, according to Bahil Lahadalia, the head of Indonesia's Investment Coordinating Board, Indonesia has signed a $9.8 billion memorandum of understanding with LG Energy. We have signed an MOU for the construction of an integrated electric battery factory from upstream to downstream. Mines, smelters, precursors, cathodes, cars to recycling facilities will be built in Indonesia.
Now, Tesla has a deal with LG Energy to make batteries for Giga Shanghai. So this should be good for Tesla, right?
I think so.
But now, why does Indonesia need this memorandum of understanding? Like, who cares?
So Indonesia, being one of the biggest suppliers in the world of nickel, wanted a way to be in on the game, not just export the nickel and just be like, oh, that's it. They wanted a way to vertically integrate. So by working with companies that'll actually come and do all the work there, they get all the jobs, they get all the infrastructure built into their country.
Interesting. That's a good way to kind of take advantage of a natural resource.
And it might mean, just conjecture alert here, it might mean that this is going to speed up them getting a Tesla Gigafactory.
That's true, because if you're making the batteries right in Indonesia, it's not a bad place for a Gigafactory.
It's not.
It's great. A lot of shipping.
I mean, because we've talked in the past about how you probably want another one in China just to keep up with demand.
But it's actually better to have one in another country, because then you say, okay, well, I guess we can shut down the Shanghai Gigafactory plant. We'll just move to the Indonesia one. It's a nice bargaining chip.
Yeah. According to Reuters, Tesla signed a 5-year deal with China's Sichuan Yahua Industrial Group Company Limited to supply battery-grade lithium hydroxide.
The deal is said to be worth around $630 to $880 million over the next 5 years for about 15,000 tons of lithium hydroxide per year, which is about a third of its output.
To put this in perspective, Tesla signed a deal with Piedmont Lithium last year that will have Piedmont supply 8,000 tons a year of lithium hydroxide to Tesla starting in mid-2022.
So this is a huge deal.
It is a huge deal. It's really good for Tesla. It's locking in lithium from supplies all over the world. And we're starting to get reports that other battery makers could be making the 4680 cell that Tesla unveiled on Battery Day.
There have been rumors of LG Energy making a battery cell that could be the 4680, and now a new report from business newspaper Nikkei Asia that Panasonic will be making the 4680s starting in 2021.
Yeah, they said Panasonic will set up a prototype production line at existing facilities. The cost of the project is expected to run into the tens of millions of dollars. So just for some perspective here, Panasonic had $4.5 billion in sales from its automotive battery business for its last fiscal year, and Tesla is its main customer. So that gives you some idea of how much money is coming in from Tesla. Now, according to Nikkei Asia, Panasonic plans to expand capacity at Giga Nevada by 10% and is considering a European factory. I think the key word here in this story is prototype plant. Basically, Panasonic next year will be building a prototype plant because you can't just be like, oh, okay, we'll make 4680s for you next year.
Right.
It takes a lot of work to get a plant running. I mean, when you're rolling a jelly roll, you have to get every step 100% perfectly right every single time, and that is not easy to do.
And so this is kind of interesting because we were conjecturing around Battery Day that this was going to be all Tesla, that Tesla was going to be making the 4680s and that they were going to be cutting out Panasonic and LG and all the other battery manufacturers. It sounds like Tesla might just not have enough money to make their own battery facilities, or rather just doesn't want to deal with all that hassle to 100% vertically integrate. But I'm assuming that this would mean that Tesla still maintains the rights to the 4680 cell, but it's not like other car manufacturers would be able to purchase the 4680s from Panasonic or LG Chem.
Maybe, or maybe they'll license the tech. Either way, it's a great position for Tesla to be in because basically you're making Panasonic jump through all those hoops, spend all that money scaling up, and then where are they going to go? Like, they're already in your Gigafactory and they're already supplying you, and you're one of their biggest customers. So it's like, yeah, pretty brilliant business strategy.
I wonder if Tesla is going to plan to buy Panasonic or LG Chem in the future.
Maybe, but if they'll do your bidding for you and you don't have to worry about it, maybe not. I mean, I hear you. That's vertically integrating. Maybe.
But maybe you don't have to.
Maybe you don't have to.
Interesting.
Tesla Time News is sponsored by Cybertruck Owners Club. There you'll find a crowdsourced reservation tracker that you can update and find your place in line.
Check out their website for Cybertruck news, discussions, and community for Cybertruck enthusiasts and future owners. And they have a 3D configurator allowing you to visualize the Cybertruck in any color, wrap, and logo, both on screen and in augmented reality.
Now, again, according to Hacker Green the Only, Tesla could be adding several new media sources, including Amazon Music, Audible, which is owned by Amazon, Tidal, Pandora, SiriusXM, and Apple Music.
Now, to be clear, Tesla owners can already use all of these services using their phones and Bluetooth, but this would enable drivers to use the car's interface.
So remember Tesla's over-the-air update they did, I don't know, a few months ago, where it allowed users to limit the number of media sources?
Yeah, so you could say like, oh, I don't want to listen to the radio or, my phone. I just want Spotify and, some of the other ones.
When it came out, it seemed a little premature. It was like, what other ones? There's only a couple. Now it's making more sense because if they're going to offer, say, a dozen different media sources, you wouldn't want every time you open it to have to scroll through and find yours.
Especially because there's very little chance that you're going to be signed up for Amazon Music, Apple Music, SiriusXM, Pandora, and Tidal, whatever the heck that one is. So, I think that this is great. I think that there was a time before the integration with Spotify. I mean, does everyone remember that? You had to just Spotify on your phone, Bluetooth in. And I'm sure that there's lots of people that are running into the same problem now.
No, remember? I mean, Europeans had Spotify before the US customers did, and we were all just so jealous. And this is another area where car analysts are not getting it because other cars don't drive around with these features. I think that this is going to turn into a big revenue stream for Tesla, the ability to get into their universe.
Right. I think that a lot of people are like, oh, but you're not considering Google Play or Apple Google CarPlay or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I think that those features are nice, but it is kind of nice to get in the car without your phone sometimes, or your phone's charging, or you don't want to use your phone for a particular thing and just have it just work.
Yeah, especially when cars drive themselves.
That's an excellent point.
So VW released a new video showing off their autonomous charging robots.
We already saw this.
This is new.
No, I mean, I distinctly remember watching something that looked exactly like this. I feel like it was a year ago.
This just came out.
No, hang on one second. Yeah, almost exactly 1 year ago, almost to the day, they released a video that looked almost exactly like this.
Right. So you're talking about the video where they showed in CGI what it would look like. This is the video of them doing it.
Well, not really. I mean, yeah, there's a maybe physical robot, maybe physically plugging in the car, and it's maybe physically charging, but it's heavily edited.
Yeah, like if they actually pulled it off, why didn't they just show a straight cut of the robot moving across the parking lot and plugging in the car? That would have been all we need to see.
And I mean, this is great. You know, if it works, and I'm sure it worked. Where is it? I want to use it. I want to try it. Now, I don't have an ID3, so I'm sure it doesn't work with Tesla, but I want to see more of it.
I don't think you actually do want this. I don't think this is actually the right way to go. I think this is exactly the difference between first principles and the existing big auto. With existing big auto, this looks great. You send your group off, you spend millions of dollars, they come back with a video and you're like, good, keep working on it. And then they come back a year later and they're like, how about this video? And you're like, does it actually work? And you're like, maybe.
Yes.
And then maybe a year later, you actually unveil it in a parking lot, you cut a ribbon, it plugs in a car, and you're done. That's not really going to work. You know why?
Why?
You're moving a giant battery around. Did anyone think of the cost of this? That's not what you should be doing. It's fine to use batteries. I understand you might have a facility where you can't have enough power at one given time to charge the cars, so you might want some Powerwall-like batteries. But a car pulls into a space. Either hire a guy to come plug it in somehow, or have a charging cable like we all are used to, and that could be plugged into a battery. But like moving a robot that autonomously moves around, way more expensive. Not saying you can't do it. It's just a dumb idea from an economic point of view.
Well, and also the garage that we're seeing this robot operate in is flat. Most parking garages, I would argue, at least maybe it's just around Boston, they decided that everyone's going to be parking on a 5-degree incline. Does the battery work like that?
Yeah.
Is the robot strong enough to pull the battery up the hill?
Also, did German kids not come along and knock things over? Because in Boston, that's what they do.
Well, and it's like, you know, we have enough trouble with chargers. You know, people have vandalized chargers in numerous awful ways. But at the end of the day, it's just a cord. Most of the stuff is connected to the wall. There's no way that you could pick up the battery, cut the cord, which would be dangerous, but cut the cord, and now you have
Throw it in the van.
a big battery pack. And you're like, all right, go, you know, and you zoom out of there. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Is this because we grew up in Boston? We just think like...
No, I don't think that Boston is in any way worse or better than any other part of the world. And here's what I said a year ago. I said, okay, make it, do it. I want to see it. Like, because... honestly, I didn't believe that they were going to continue.
I still don't know that they've actually accomplished it, because if they did, like I said, they would have shown it. This is just a bunch of close cuts of things that might be plugging themselves in. It is hard to make this thing actually work on a day in, day out basis 100% of the time. Right. It cannot drive up to your car and do this. Sorry.
Oops. There's a dent.
You can't scratch a guy's VW. Right. The amount of money they're spending to develop this, it's not going to work. I'm telling you. Tesla has come up with a robo-snake, right? When they came out with that, I'll bet you it was a couple interns, and they came out with that, and everyone said, that's the craziest, stupidest idea. But you know what's beautiful about that idea? You just install it at a parking spot, and it plugs in the car. That's what you actually wanted to do.
And also, they didn't spend thousands and thousands of dollars for some hip, you know, highly edited video. It was a one shot from a guy on his phone just being like, look at the thing we made.
Right.
And then
it spoke for itself.
Right. I mean,
and guess how many views it got compared to this?
That's an excellent point. And there's an actual use case for it in the future when we have autonomous cars that need to be plugged in, perhaps autonomously.
All right, so there's a new survey out by ZapMap of over 2,000 EV owners in the UK, and it shows that the vast majority would never go back to gas or diesel again. ZapMap reported 91% said no thanks to replacing their EVs with a petrol or diesel vehicle. Less than 1% were hankering for a return to fossil fuels. 9% said they were not sure. The majority of respondents were first-time EV drivers, with 73% stating their current vehicle was their first EV and 52% making the purchase within the last year. Driver satisfaction was notably higher for both battery electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles, with EV drivers reporting a satisfaction score of 91 out of 100. BEVs were 92 and PHEVs were 84, compared with only 72 for petrol or diesel vehicle ownership.
Now, an interesting thing to point out here was that among the all-electric vehicles, the VW ID3 achieved a 100% satisfaction rating, followed by the Tesla Model 3 and the Kia e-Niro.
Hang on. The survey was done in November of 2020.
Yeah? So what?
The VW ID3 just came out in November.
Right.
So that means the people responding to the survey just had a brand new VW.
Right. Yes. And they had just picked up their car.
And also, didn't I read that the first owners of VWs, for the most part, were VW employees?
What are you saying?
I'm just saying the data's a bit skewed.
You're saying garbage input, garbage output. Yeah, I mean, I think that you want some people who might have had an EV a little bit longer just to have some nice data, but it's a nice statistic to be able to point to. And I think that it is true that most people that buy an EV are like super enthralled with owning one and they never want to go back to gas.
You know this survey I'd love to see?
What?
Back in like 1919. If they'd done a survey that said, now, do you like your new automobile or would you like to go back to the horse?
Right. That's a little different because, I mean, you can actually, like, people love horses. I mean, people love cars too, but it's not the same. Cars don't have faces.
That's a new t-shirt. Okay, I'm getting ready for this story, guys. This is, I know it's going to take a mental toll on me.
What are you doing? What are you talking about?
Darren Palmer of Ford's Edison team, he's the head of development for Ford's new electric vehicles. He said in an interview with Autoblog, so he's talking here about the Ford Mach-E. He said, the doors fit properly, the plastics and other materials color match, the bumpers don't fall off, the roof doesn't come off when you wash it, the door handles don't get stuck in cold weather. So we know who he's talking about here. He's throwing some shade at Tesla. And I thought, boy, a lot of press outlets picked up on this story and were like, Ford throws shade at Tesla. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, that's fine. You can throw shade, but be prepared for it to come back at you. And I was waiting as I read these articles for like, okay, well, he's going to get his comeuppance because
he works for Ford.
He works for Ford.
Yeah, right. Okay. Nothing.
It's just all, we build a quality vehicle and Tesla sucks. So I decided to do a little research. It only took me about 30 seconds.
Okay.
I went and looked up some recalls.
Okay.
Here's a recall for Ford, 2020, back in November. Powertrain axle assembly axle shaft, where in the Ford Taurus in the Edge, the support bracket on the front drive axle half shaft may fail, and the consequence may result in the risk of a crash. Or this one, electrical system instrument cluster panel failure in certain 2020 Ford Expeditions and Lincoln Navigators, where you could have the risk of a crash or injury. Or engine and engine cooling failure in certain Ford Transits. That could result in risk of fire. Or suspension in certain Ford vehicles and Explorers. Rear toe link fracture could cause loss of steering control and increase the risk of a crash.
Okay.
You could have a powertrain failure.
Yeah.
How about the Lincoln? You could have this one where you have a transmission launch failure.
Okay, but Tesla has had recalls.
Yeah, but these are just 2020. How about electrical system body control module? Or the service brakes hydraulic pedals linkage? Or the airbags frontal driver's side inflator module? Or the fuel system gasoline storage? Or the seat belts? Or the engine? Those are just the first few I found in 2020. I didn't even go back any further. And there's a lot more in 2020, by the way.
And these are usually linked to safety. These aren't like, oh, sometimes the handles freeze in the car, or like on a couple of Model 3s, there was some mismatch of paint, or there was some scratches, or there was some this or that.
These are tens of thousands of cars affected by things that have to do with just safety, let alone most of the things he mentioned were, okay, so your trim doesn't match color and you're not going to die.
And that's the insane part of this quote.
And so I get it, Ford. You're focused on, maybe there's never a recall because your bumpers don't match, but that's because that's what you care about. Tesla focuses on safety. That is what they care about. And so you're absolutely right. There have been some problems with Teslas with, paint not matching, trim pieces not being perfect.
Well, and it gets disproportional attention by the press because, usually it's a person who's very upset. They go to the press and the press goes, yeah, we'll run that story. That's a great story. People love hearing about, people who pay a lot of money for something that's different, getting their comeuppance. Haha, look at this stupid person who spent some extra money to get a car and, they goes bad.
Also, I'm sorry, Darren is the head of the Edison team. And historically, we all know that Edison never paid Nikola Tesla for his due, right? Nikola Tesla solved a problem for Edison, and then Edison reneged on the deal.
Right. And yet they call their whole team the Edison team.
Which is, I guess, apropos here. You might be asking, why don't you see other media outlets reporting on both sides of the story? And the reason is they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. And who feeds them? They're advertisers. The reason that we can give you another side of the story is because we are independent. We are supported by you. So if you go to Patreon and you support us, we can continue to bring you the other side of the story. And that's why we made the Now You Know Clips channel, because once you learn something and you want to share it, you don't want to probably share the whole entire 1 hour long show. So we chop it up into a small clip, bite size, easy to handle, and you can ship it off to someone that you know.
So a little while ago, we interviewed Chris and Steve, the co-CEOs of Aptera Motors, an electric vehicle startup.
Yeah, Steve and I have great experience scaling companies. Me with my boat company over many years, and now Flux Power, which just recently took public to the NASDAQ. About 6 months ago. So, we've taken great world-changing ideas and turned them into reality. And, now that we have so many orders on the Aptera, we have a lot of people expecting us to deliver very quickly. And to automotive standards, that's a challenge because testing and validation just takes time. But, our investors have been generous, beyond compare, and we can only be so thankful for them. And we're opening up a new investment round here in February to also allow, any person out there really to invest in Aptera and follow on our journey. And we think that that's enough money to get us into production by the end of 2021. It's got to happen quickly, and we're going to keep pressing towards that. But Elon's right, production is hell. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of manpower, and it's a very different skill set than kind of the early prototyping and architecture phase. It takes a totally different skill set. So we've been lucky enough to engage companies like Monroe and Associates, and they are helping us with, validating all of our parts for production, and then also helping us build assembly lines that can scale very easily. So I think we've got a great team coalescing around us, and very soon we can start executing on that path.
So there's a global, not only a global supply chain, but a global resource bank for us now that didn't exist 10 years ago, and Monroe is helping us navigate that. So, when we go to sleep here at night, there's people in different parts of the world working on different components of this vehicle. Work never really stops. That didn't exist when we first started the company, and so that lets us stretch our dollar by almost a factor of 10 and sometimes. And so the systems that are available to us are different. A lot of the things that we had to struggle to even ideate exist now. And we have this sort of global resource reach that Monroe is helping us with that we didn't have access to before. So those are the things that are really helping us put this into production.
So if Aptera can pull this off, this car is kind of amazing in a couple ways. It's an exciting car because it has more range and it's cheaper than a Tesla Model 3.
Right, which are the two really big things that people look for when they're thinking about buying a car.
We've been doing this show for years, and I've never come across another car company that actually could pull those two things off
at the same time.
Like,
the Lucid could have more range, but it would cost way more. And you could have the Citroën Ami, which, costs like $8,000, $5,000. Doesn't have the range whatsoever, and it doesn't even have the speed. Aptera does make some compromises, but it's really in the effort to making a more affordable and easier to live with vehicle.
Yeah, we did an in-depth last week on the fact that you can get this as a 1,000-mile range vehicle. So we were so impressed that we actually put money down on a pre-order. Check out our full episode with Chris and Steve on our Disruptive Investing channel. Aptera will be doing another financing round in February, and we'll hopefully have Chris and Steve join us on our Now You Know Investor Club, where we hang out with all of our members and talk about cool investments. This could be another cool investment, especially if they can pull this off. So if after watching that episode, you decide to pre-order an Aptera, use our referral link, which is down in the show notes, and you'll get $30 off your pre-order deposit.
And we'll make sure that when we have our, Roadster tour, that you can have the opportunity to get in the passenger seat of the Tesla Roadster.
Yeah, butts and seats, dudes.
Because why not, man? And this interview that we did has actually been live for all of our Now You Know Investor Club members since Friday. They've been able to enjoy watching this interview early. They get early access to all of the interviews. So head over to patreon.com/nowyouknow and sign up at the $10 level, and you'll get access to all of that.
All right, it's time for Going Green. So the IEA, which is the International Energy Agency, and by the way, did you know they're based in Paris? I thought for some reason they're based in Washington.
Well, it is the international.
Yeah.
A lot of international stuff. France got the lock on.
Yeah.
The metric system. Good for France. Good job. And this is the agency that you remember that's very good at counting up the numbers, but is terrible at predicting the future growth of, say, renewable energy.
So, right, they just released data showing that the U.S. in 2019 consumed more energy from green sources, so 11.5 quadrillion BTUs, than coal at 11.3 quadrillion BTUs. And this is the first time in 134 years. And get this, in 2019, electricity generation from wind surpassed hydro for the first time.
Wow.
And did you know that wood was the main source of power in the U.S. until the mid-1800s?
Kind of makes sense.
I mean, it's not that long ago. I know as soon as you say 1800s, everyone's like, that was forever
That was back in the past. That was the black and white days. No, that wasn't that long ago.
Not that long ago. That wood
I know.
was the major power source.
And then it went to coal, and now it's going to green renewable sources. That's huge. I mean, that is such a big change in such a short period of time, especially when so many experts said that it could never be done.
It's kind of cool that someday on like Mars, when they're reading, a bleepy bloop book,
A bleedy bloop bloop.
it won't be, it's not a textbook, right, in the future.
Oh, right. It's going to be
It'd be
just
some
you just
kind of-
plug it, and then Neuralink just.
And they get all of human civilization in 1 second.
Yeah,
when they
okay.
learn that, they'll be like, so in 2020 is when you turned from fossil fuels to smart renewable energy.
Right. And it's only going to keep growing from here because it's the cheapest form of energy generation.
Yeah. All right, it's time for Into the Future.
Escape into the future.
So this next story is about playing I Spy.
I Spy?
No, Ice Spy, spotting the internal combustion engine or ICE vehicles.
Okay.
So in the UK, the Coventry Town Council is using a parking bay sensor built by Appiway to detect whether a car is parked in the spot. If a charging spot is being iced, then in the future, they plan to issue a £70 fine.
So how do they tell if it's an ICE car?
Well, if there's a car parked in the spot and that charger hasn't been charging a car, it must be an ICE car or at least an EV that's essentially misusing the spot. Appiway provides parking info via their app for 400 towns and cities across the UK and has installed these sensors in electric charging bays in both Harrogate and Halifax.
And did you know that more than 144,000 plug-in hybrids and BEVs were sold in the UK in 2020, more than double in 2019?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're counting plug-in hybrids, but still, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, how expensive is that little puck? And is it like Bluetooth or is it Wi-Fi? Like, I want to know more. I'm going to reach out to the company and see if I can figure this out.
All right, cool.
All right, it's time for Sunspots. The Noor Abu Dhabi solar farm in the UAE is currently the world's largest single solar farm with, get this, 3.2 million solar panels. It puts out 1.17 gigawatts of power, but it's about to be overshadowed. The Abu Dhabi National Energy Company announced last week that it will be building a 2 gigawatt solar farm to be completed in 2022 with 4 million panels, enough power for 160,000 homes. Wow. Now, it's interesting that Chinese solar company Jinko Power will own 20% of the project, so I'm guessing the Jinko Power will be making the panels.
And if you want to get a slightly smaller solar energy system put on your home, you should talk to the folks at Energy Pal. These are the energy experts that help homeowners get solar for less.
Link down below in the show notes. All right, it's time for our video contributor stories. What do we got this week, Jess?
This is from Joachim Garraud, and he has to show one of pretty much the coolest video contributor stories we've seen. Let's check it out.
Hi, Zach and Jesse. My name is Joachim Garraud. I'm a French music producer based in LA, California. And last year, I converted a 2009 RV into a music recording studio on wheels, LA Good Vibe. The idea was to use the electricity provided by 10 solar panels on the roof to power the RV and get inspiration from amazing hidden landscapes across the country. Since I'm using solar energy rather than a noisy and polluting generator, I get to produce and record music in a natural and quiet environment. Of course, I'm excited about the release of the semi-Tesla to be able to do a 2.0 version that's 100% electric. Fun fact, I discovered while watching an episode of your show that Deadmau5 came up with the same idea a few days after being my guest on the bus. When the bus's batteries are full, I use my Tesla as a storage unit to get the most out of my solar array. What I'm trying to figure out is how many miles I can go per day by charging the Tesla without tapping into the bus's batteries. I plug in my Tesla directly on the 120 power outlet on the bus. Right now, it's 7 a.m., so the palm trees are casting some shadows. I have to wait to get the most exposure to the sun. It's noon and the sun is finally at its zenith. There's no more shadows. Let's go take a look at numbers. We are producing 2400 watts per hour, and I'm using 1500 to charge the Tesla. This is great because we are producing more electricity that we're consuming, effectively charging the Tesla and the bus battery at the same time. It is now 5:50 p.m. and the sun is going down. I'll stop the experiment to avoid tapping into my batteries and go see how many extra miles I managed to get on the Tesla. So I got 4 miles per hour for 5 hours for a total of 20 miles per day without emptying the batteries of the bus. I did this experiment because there have been a lot of discussion about the future Cybertruck and its optional solar equipment. My bus has 10 solar panels, 14 batteries for a maximum charge of 3600 watts per hour. And finally, a total of 20 miles per day for my Tesla. Based on these numbers, I'll let you reach your own conclusion about solar roof for the Cybertruck. That's it for this video, which was produced only with solar energy here in LA Good Vibe Bus. In the meantime, Zach and Jesse, you are always welcome to be my guest off-grid on planet Mars. Next time, you're gonna be in LA. Now you know.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
A solar-powered recording studio with deadmau5 in it?
It's not the solar-powered recording studio. You have one of those. It's a mobile. solar-powering recording studio.
Wow. And if you want to go check out the longer video that shows how Joachim made this, which is amazing to see the bus being transformed, we'll put the link down in the show notes. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I'm super excited to go make some music in a mobile solar-powered studio.
With deadmau5.
With or without deadmau5. That's awesome.
Right. And remember, deadmau5 is also buying a Tesla semi-truck in order to have all of his concerts be closer to carbon neutral.
I know. I'm just picturing, I never even thought about being able to go to the middle of a desert or something and record an album.
I mean, there aren't recording studios in the middle of a desert.
Not that I know of.
Not like this.
Not like this.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, it's time for our Patreon bonus stories. If you'd like to help out the show and get to see all of our stories coming up for less than $1 a month, head on over to Patreon and see what we're talking about. Oh, we're back from the Patreon bonus stories. There was a lot of meaty stuff
hair
in
longer?
there.
I mean, can you tell that the Earth has rotated on its axis since you've seen us last? Oh my goodness. Yeah. What are we're doing Tesla time news?
Yes, we're back to the Patreon shout outs. These are people who support us for $5 or more. And who do we got this week?
We've got Russell Cooper,
Kevin Robinson,
Patrick Honeycutt,
Julianne Robert Lacadou,
Billy,
Jin Lin,
Ed O,
Rajko Shrimpf,
Daniel Westall,
Mark Rogerson,
Bryce Roach,
Philippe Calve,
Devesh Dama,
Tyson Fields,
David J. Roberts,
Preston Robinson,
Michael Segula,
and Tony Cyril.
Thank you so much for supporting us. We can't do this show without you.
All right, buckle up, get your popcorn. It's time for Elon's Tweets of the Week. And Tesla owners Silicon Valley said Full Self-Driving Beta 8 is by far the best update so far, and it's had huge improvements in areas that it wasn't as good in. It's able to handle a 4-way lane road and make a clean left turn.
Elon said we need a match other traffic speed setting.
Didn't even know we needed that.
No, I didn't know we needed that either.
Everyday Astronaut said, or even a way to overrule the autopilot speed limit. Since we are still the operators, we should be able to tell the car, hey, go 50 here. It still gets some road speeds wrong for a long and frustrating stretch of road.
Elon said, sure.
And Ivan said, when will you expand the FSD beta to the rest of early access program?
Elon said a few more revisions needed, probably beta 10 or 11.
Let me just do some math for you here.
Okay.
The average space between updates has been 8.5 days. So that would mean January 12th or January 21st, somewhere in there would be for early access. Now that means, since we are part of the early access program, my friend,
that we shall
be getting it.
Yes, because I've been in the early access program and I've been pretty disappointed because it's like, oh, did you hear about the new update? I'm like, I didn't get it yet.
Yeah.
Even though I'm in the early access program, what the
I'm sorry, just a alert here. Yeah, we've been in the early access program, yet we've never gotten the perk.
Right. I earned it through the referral program, and yet we haven't gotten pretty much anything. I mean,
no.
I've gotten some of the latest updates, but it's
Only
usually
when
taken
they're-
a couple days, usually.
Right. We're never early access.
Yeah, so I don't know.
So we're a little...
I'm a little
peeved.
steamed about it. I think
Yeah.
I'm allowed to be a little steamed about it. It's been years that we've always been a little bit behind.
Come on, Elon. We would be very responsible. You know we would. Andre Kaparthi said, retweeting this one more time because it's so excellent. Describes nicely how the mRNA vaccines are a direct hacking of life's assembly code for the spike protein, plus all of its headers, metadata, plus tweaking it to be more stable and likely to evade the immune system defenses.
And Elon said, vaccines are just the start. It's also capable, in theory, of curing almost anything. Turns medicine into a software and simulation problem. So, okay, I guess we have that to look forward to.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess, well, I mean, once you get into the source code of something, you can do almost anything you want. So I guess that tracks.
Lauren says, do you agree with Illumina, in which basically you could sequence DNA for $100 in about an hour? And Elon said,
yes.
And then Steven said, SpaceX carried out a record-breaking 26 launches this year, but how many boosters did it take to get it done? The answer is
11.
And Elon said, Falcon was 25% of successful orbital launches in 2020, but maybe a majority of payload to orbit. Anyone done the math? And then Connexion said, according to my calculations and the data of all the known masses since some are unknown, more than 416,000 kilograms were launched, of which 238,000 kilograms were launched by SpaceX. That is more than 57.2% of all the total mass sent.
And Elon said, interesting.
Zorro said, can we get an update on whether Tesla India is still happening in January of 2021?
Elon said, no, but definitely this year.
So to translate, that means, yes, you are getting it in India, except it'll be later this year, not January.
Right. But I mean, I think he said definitely in 2020, like a year ago. So
but it's coming.
It's coming. It's always been coming. I'm so sorry, India.
Tesla owner Silicon Valley said, can we get the boombox installed for our models prior to the ones that have them now?
Elon said, you mean install the external speakers on earlier cars that don't have it?
Yes, we definitely need it. I want to fart at people walking by.
Elon says, okay, service might be able to do this. We'll check. And
so that's awesome. That's what we asked for last week.
Well, I don't think he got back to Silicon Owner Valley.
But he's checking.
There is, I mean, I've heard from some people that there is a way to do it. It doesn't sound very simple. It sounds like if the service department wanted to do it, that they have to replace your wiring harness, which sounds expensive and complicated, and that you can do a little bit of hacky stuff yourself. I'm not going to do that. I think I'm fine having a silent car over time.
I'm not, but...
I mean, I didn't invest in night vision goggles to have a loud car.
Elon said, try playing Polytopia in your Tesla. Great game. Multiplayer online version coming soon. What should Tesla do with in-car gaming in an autonomous world? Entertainment will be critical when cars drive themselves. That is a very important tweet.
Right, because you've basically been playing a free-to-play driving game your entire time that you've ever been driving a car, unless you were in the passenger seat, in which case you're usually very bored.
And then Richard said, hey, Elon, could you please add an emergency call feature that uses the car's network? I needed to call 911 yesterday, but my phone had no signal, so I wasn't able to. My Model 3 did have service, and I tried everything, but could not call emergency services. Could save lives.
Elon said, absolutely. So great.
And then Space News said, Viasat has petitioned the FCC to perform an environmental review of SpaceX's Starlink broadband constellation, arguing that the satellite system poses environmental hazards in space and on Earth. And Elon said,
Starlink poses a hazard to Viasat's profits, more like it. Stop the sneaky moves, Charlie Ergen. And then he said, and Mark Dankberg, this action is whack, not dank.
So Mark Dankberg is the CEO of Viasat, and Charlie Ergen is the chairman of Dish. And you've been dished. And then Rex Chapman said, astronaut Mark Kelly once smuggled a full gorilla suit on board the International Space Station. He didn't tell anyone about it. One day, without anyone knowing, he put it on.
Elon said, haha. And NASA, why do we never get to see any of this stuff?
Yeah.
There's so much fun stuff that can be done in space, and we never get to see like any of it. Like, why have I not seen on the news Mark Kelly in a gorilla suit? Yeah. Why was that not like, hey, maybe this would be a good news story? Maybe they passed it along, but maybe they didn't. Also, space cooking. Why do you think no one's interested in space? It's because there's no space cuisine.
Wow.
You can have a baguette that is completely, there's no bottom. To the muffin that's all top.
What?
Yeah, hello.
Wait.
I mean, yeah, you think muffin tops are cool. What about a whole muffin that's all top? Huh? 0G, man. 0G baking. Mobius strip pizza. The possibilities are
What?
endless.
Another t-shirt. The possibilities are endless. I love that. With a Mobius pizza. That has to be a t-shirt. All right. Let's go check out our Patreon poll. What's the question this week?
The question was, what features do you want to see in the second half of Tesla's holiday update? So the first thing, which was the first thing suggested, was waypoints.
Oh, yeah.
Waypoints! 346 people want waypoints out of our entire poll, the highest. Wow. And a better route planner, I just want to mention, has waypoints. The second was 360 parking view. So use all the cameras to have the 360 view. This is not a new feature in terms of cars, so I think Tesla should have it. The next one was full self-driving.
I'm surprised that wasn't number one.
Customizable screen layout, show side camera on turn signal, and remote camera viewer, so you could see it from your phone. I think all of these were excellent suggestions.
I got a new idea for a poll, but I'll tell you about it during Community Mail Time.
Okay, all right.
All right, it's time for Community Mail Time. And we got a lot of dog pictures as we requested.
We got a lot of dogs. We
my gosh.
Didn't get enough dogs because
Marco's dog, Lulu, takes the cake.
And so I was wondering why you have that in the center console. It's for little cute dogs.
It's for Marco's dog, Lulu.
That's
great. There's Mike's dog, Tessa, watching intently. Tessa probably knows everything there is to know. Probably can give stock tips.
Honestly, Tessa the dog probably knows more than most traditional OEM auto manufacturers.
Now, Andrew's dog, Stitch, probably does not because he's sleeping through the show. So, come on, Stitch. Take your nap. And then we got Harry's dog, Wellington, from New Zealand. He's not watching either. He's not interested.
Well, I mean, taking a little break, you know. It's a long show.
It is a long show. And then we got Doug in Minnesota, who's de-icing his new Model Y.
I'm sorry, I didn't see any dog. Where's the dog?
This was a human portion of the show.
Okay. So send in more dogs. We want more dogs. Babies are fun too.
Yeah, let's do babies next week.
Babies, but dogs, still, anytime you want to send pictures of dogs.
Maggie and Sean sent in their predictions. They had made predictions separately for 2020 and now for 2021, and that got me thinking, let's do a poll. So head on over to Patreon. We're going to put up a post where you can post your ideas of predictions for 2021. Jesse will take the top ones and make some kind of magical polls out of it.
Yeah, I don't know how that's not going to be easy. It's probably going to be a bunch of different polls. So try and make it easy for me, please.
They won't. All right, it's time for Supercharger reviews, and these are sponsored by our friends at Evannex, the Tesla community's accessory store. If you're looking for awesome accessories for your Tesla, then check out Evannex and use our discount code nowyouknow to save you $10 on purchases over $100.
Hi, Zach and Jesse. We are here at the brand new V3 Supercharger in near Zurich in Affolten am Albis at the My Stop, and I'm charging now my Model 3. It's called Luna. It's a standard range plus, and as you can see, it's charging. The problem is that it was nearly full when I arrived, so not a lot of speed at the moment. Only 26 kilowatt. Wish you all a very nice day, and now you know. Peace.
Hi, Zach and Jess. I am filming here from Ottawa, Canada, at the new Nepean Supercharger station. It's an 8-stall unit. We're happy to have it. It's about 2 minutes from the highway. Overall, I'd rate it 7 or 8. It's beside a Canadian Tire, which is an all-inclusive store that we like in Canada as well. We've got a few good restaurants and a McDonald's. So thank you very much for all the work you do, and now you know.
I'm at the Titusville, Florida Supercharger. 16 stalls. It's on the corner of Highway 1 and 50 in Titusville, Florida. There's 16 stalls, a 250 kilowatt charger, V3, and there's lots of things to do here. There's a Target and a plaza with many restaurants. So I would give this 8 out of 10. And now you know.
Hey, Zach and Jesse, here we are in Beaumont, California. Supercharger here between Los Angeles and Palm Springs. And here, it's in the middle of the Highland Springs, Beaumont. There's a Five Below, Canes. Here's 4 Superchargers and a lovely blue Model S charging, and 12 Superchargers, a total of 16, right up against the In-N-Out drive-thru. Also here is a Walmart, a Home Depot, Wells Fargo and other banks, Farmer Boys, that's a burger restaurant. And it's a huge shopping area with many options. So if you're going between Palm Springs and Los Angeles, there's plenty to charge up and do while you get your burger and charge your car in Beaumont, California.
I love the Supercharger reviews.
It's great. So yeah, if you don't know how to do it, you record the Supercharger review on your phone. Make sure that it is in landscape, so you hold the phone sideways. A little counterintuitive, but sideways. If I were to throw the phone at the screen, you'd notice that it would line up with the screen exactly, because that's how.
And that's not the only
work.
part of the review. Then you go and upload it to YouTube. We have a video on our website, tells you how to do it.
And then you go to our website,
Yep.
nowyouknowchannel.com, and you go to the Supercharger review section, and you create the review for the particular Supercharger.
And then you can
visited.
see it immediately. It's ready to go. All right, it's time for new Superchargers this week. What do we got?
We've got the 8-stall version 3 in Princeton, British Columbia.
We got the 24-stall Urban in Irvine on Main Street in California.
The 2-stall Urban in Salem at Apperson Drive, Virginia.
The 8-stall version 3 in Hagerstown at Venture Drive in Maryland.
Number 285 in China is the largest supercharger in the world. 72 stalls, 120 kilowatts, so not full power, at Jing'an in China.
And number 2101 in the world, number 964 in the U.S. is the 8-stall 250 kilowatt in Goldsboro, North Carolina. All right, it's time for the Patreon giveaway. We're giving away a signed poster. This is Falcon 9 parking only. Violators will be melted.
And the winner is Mark Maher. Congratulations, Mark. We're going to be sending you this signed poster.
Congratulations, Mark. And I want to mention a couple tidbits of news. If you want to see our next live stream with Zach and Jesse, that's going to be this Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. I don't know what that is, UTC, but you can, Jesse actually puts up a little link where you can go look up your time zone and figure it out.
Yeah, so you don't have to do any thinking. As long as your computer knows where you are, it'll tell you the right time.
So that's at the $8 level on Patreon. So head on over to Patreon and join us. And we live stream where basically it's on a Zoom call, so you can talk to us, ask questions. It's a lot of fun. And then we are doing our Now You Know Investor Club on Saturday, January 16th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And that is at our $10 level. And that's where we talk about making money. And so, join us for that. And we'll be talking about all sorts of cool stuff because we have a Slack channel dedicated to that where we've been talking about, oh my gosh, we have so many channels.
I can barely keep up.
I can barely keep up, but it's full of good information.
Yes.
I thought we were going to be telling you all the good information. You guys are telling us a lot of good information too. So it's been a lot of fun. So if you want to join us there, head on over to Patreon, join us, and become an Investor Club member because it's good to make money.
If you like this episode, be sure to hit the like button. That's the thumbs up button down below if you didn't know what that was. And if you want to see more of these videos, you can subscribe to this channel. It's free. It doesn't cost you any money. Basically, YouTube will just show you that we have made a new video instead of you having to Google it every single time. We'll see you next week. Now you know.